Hi everybody. I am Sarah Pawson and I'm delighted to welcome you all to our podcast series, The Diary of a CIO, and our guest today, Jeremy Lewis. Hi, Jeremy.
Hello, how are you?
Very well, thank you. And yourself?
I'm good, thank you. I'm good. I'm looking forward to this. No hard questions, I trust.
Absolutely not. Would I do that to you, Jeremy?
Yes.
So really delighted to finally get Jeremy on our podcast series today. Jeremy is a seasoned CIO with a proven track record delivering large-scale IT and business transformation programs of work across multiple sectors, including finance, retail, manufacturing, and automotive. Currently, Jeremy is the European CTO at Equifax, where you've been for 6 years now, I think.
6 years just gone.
Excellent. Congratulations. And prior to that, you were CIO at Cox Automotive and Director of IT at Limpac. And then you've carried out various senior tech leadership roles for organisations such as NatWest, GE, and Halifax Bank.
Yep.
So a very broad background that we're going to draw upon.
Because I'm only 25.
I know. Me and you both. Outside of work, Jeremy is from God's own country here in Yorkshire, and loves to travel, loves to enjoy nice wine and dinners, and of late gardening.
Yes, linked to
because you're 25.
Because I'm 25, exactly.
Not that you can't enjoy gardening as a 25-year-old, but excellent. So thank you again, Jeremy. We're going to delve straight in today with some questions. My first question is, when did you know you wanted to be a CTO? Was it your childhood dream?
You know what? I don't know if anybody ever, kind of hits teenage years and thinks, you know what, I want to be a CTO, and that's it. I think like all of these, like most people, I think you end up kind of drifting into things really. So I remember I've been very fortunate. I've worked in some fantastic organisations, and I've enjoyed everywhere where I've worked. And I've actually stayed in the majority of organisations for a period of time as well. And I came up through the service route of technology, so kind of service management and then running big service functions. That was kind of how I came up. And then an old boss of mine left. And I got asked to do the interim CTO job, or IT director job as it was then. And that was kind of my first foray into the role. And actually just really enjoyed it. I loved the breadth of kind of what you get to look at. I love leading teams. I like people fundamentally. So it kind of played to all of my strengths. So just, kind of really enjoyed it and grasped that opportunity. And your kind of career just goes on from there, really, So I ended up stepping into multiple CIO roles after that, all of which I've enjoyed. My current one, so here at Equifax, it's the biggest role I've ever done. I have a really quite a large team here, and do you know what? Thoroughly enjoy it. It's good fun. They're challenging roles as all of these senior positions are, but thoroughly enjoy it.
Excellent. So your current role is a global role across Equifax, and you said it's the biggest role that you've had in terms of company and team size and responsibility. What personal sacrifices have you had to make along the way to achieve that success in your career, or haven't there been any?
Well, I've just got divorced. I don't know if that counts, right?
We can both laugh about that.
Well, exactly right. You know what? I kind of, I say it tongue in cheek. I think the problem is you hit a certain point in your career where you step into certain roles, and those roles become 24/7 roles. So, most weekends I will end up getting a call off somebody. Every evening I will get a call off somebody. Right. And, we kind of talk about work-life balance, and it took me a long time to figure this stuff out, right? But you kind of always talk about work-life balance. Once you hit a certain level, I think it just turns into work-life blend.
Okay.
So I think it's more like that. So if I give an example, so it's a European role that I do. So I look after technology across Europe. I spend a lot of time in Madrid at the moment with the team over there. We just completed a big transformation program over there. So where possible, I'll try and take my partner. So Lucy, I'll try and get her to maybe come over for a few days, so you can kind of blend some
Yeah.
of that stuff in together, because you do sacrifice an awful lot. So it's more about how you blend that personal life and work rather than it being a straight, right, I've finished
Yeah.
now for the day, I'm not going to do any more work. It just doesn't work like that when you
No.
hit a certain level. And it's the one thing I'd say to anybody who kind of wants to aspire to that sort of CIO, CTO, senior exec level roles. There is a big personal sacrifice that kind of comes with it, and you have to figure out how you manage work alongside personal life as well.
Mm.
I think.
I think blend is a really good descriptive word to use to how it needs to be. And it's very similar to what a lot of people who I've met through this podcast series have said. If you're striving for balance all the time, you're just going to let somebody down, be it your partner, be it yourself, be it work. So it's better maybe not to strive for it and accept that you get that blend as and when you can, like you do with the travel and making the most of that as an opportunity.
Yeah, exactly right. And you kind of take the downtime where you can. So if it's a Friday afternoon, it's 2 o'clock. You know what? And I know that I've had a really busy week, and actually I know that the next 2 weeks are going to be horrendous. Do you know what? Fine. I'll finish early, as I advise my team to as well. You kind of
Yeah.
take that downtime where you can, really.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. So I think, is it fair to say it's probably not realistic to expect in any C-level role that at 5:30 every day you're off the clock and that's it?
No, it just doesn't. It just doesn't work like that, and that's why people have to. And I always have to, whenever I'm kind of coaching people or having these conversations about, the next step for people. I speak to so many people who say, I'll say, so what role do you want? They say, well, I want your role. That's what I kind of want to do. And you really have to kind of question people really hard on that, because, people don't always necessarily want to give up all of those things. And that's
No.
absolutely fine.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. So it's important for people to understand their own mind and exactly what they want and whether they want the senior roles, because
Yeah.
there is a lot that you give up as part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned when you kind of fell into your first CIO, CTO role, that was a result of your boss at the time moving on and you taking that role on an interim basis. Has there been anybody in particular that's had a big influence on your career or kind of inspired you to really progress in the way that you're coaching other people now?
I think if I look at kind of, people who have really helped guide me over the years or given me opportunities. I think one of the people I'd probably call out is a chap called Simon Warrington, who I originally met donkeys years ago. I think I was probably about 25 years old at the time when I was working at GE. And I followed Simon to a number of organizations, actually. And he's provided me with the opportunity to move into kind of fairly large CIO roles on a number of occasions. So, I owe Simon an awful lot in terms of the opportunities that he's provided. And then you have to kind of back that up with hard work and a bit of delivery as well.
Yeah.
You make a bit of your own luck in there as well. But yeah, he's certainly probably the person I'd call out as having provided the majority of those or a lot of those opportunities I've had.
And what do you think it is that Simon has seen in you that's always made him want to bring you along wherever it is he goes?
I think when I think about sort of the key attributes, if you like, of somebody doing a senior role, I always talk about storytelling. So if you think about, you need to engage in my role, you need to engage your teams, you need to engage customers, you need to engage your key stakeholders, you need to engage your peers, you need to engage your boss. And actually the way that you do that is through good storytelling. So, that ability to be able to articulate a problem or a strategy and the steps you're going to go through and what the output is going to be at the end of all of that. That ability to be able to tell stories, I think, is really important in the senior roles. And it's one of the things I think, I don't know, but it's one of the things I think I do quite well in terms of my ability to be able to engage people.
Mm-hmm.
And unless you can do that, I work in financial services, I work in technology, but you know what? Fundamentally, I work with people. So it's whatever business you're in, it's a people business.
Yeah.
And you have to be able to get people to do what you want in terms of if they work for you, but then also influence and engage all of those people and customers around you as well. So I think that kind of storytelling and engagement is probably the key thing from my perspective.
Yeah. And what do you think are the other attributes that every CTO, CIO needs? You mentioned that engagement piece and the people leadership and bringing people on that journey with you. What are the other attributes, do you think?
So I think, stepping into the role, you need to be able to, first and foremost, really understand what the priorities for the business and ultimately our end customers are. Because at the end of the day, technology is an enabling function. So everything we do needs to be aligned to those strategies of the business or our customers. So, if you think about those business strategies, it's, I don't know, maybe around operational efficiency, maybe it's around growth, maybe it's around automation, kind of whatever those internal things are. From a customer perspective, where are the gaps in terms of the services and products that we provide, where we think we can add value? So being able to really understand all of those requirements of technology's enabling function really well and turning that into an actionable strategy that the team can then be bought into through the storytelling and the engagement and all of the rest of it. Ultimately, that's kind of the priority. So strategy, engaging teams, and the third one really is I'm never the smartest person in the room, right? So the only way you succeed in the senior roles or even more junior managerial roles is to surround yourself by the very best people that you can. And if you do that, I don't think you can go far wrong. I feel very proud of the team that I have around me. They're far brighter than me. They're absolutely fantastic. And that's the way that you succeed in the role, because it means you don't have to worry about the day-to-day as much. Actually, you can think about the strategy and the vision and where we're heading. Actually, the kind of day-to-day gets taken care of by those really bright, fantastic leaders that you bring in around you. So ability to bring in really good people to surround yourself with, critical part of the role.
And of those three, the strategy, the engagement, storytelling, and then the surrounding yourself with good people, bringing in great teams, which is the hardest to get right?
It's got to be number three. It's got to be the surrounding yourself with the right people. So I love Myers-Briggs. So kind of personality profiling and all that stuff. Now I know where my weaknesses are, so I know the kind of critical roles around me that I need to bring in. So there's the understanding the skills that are missing, which is the first part. Really difficult part then is actually creating that culture and that team and that mesh of people where they really, really work well together. And they really trust each other. Building that really kind of positive, self-fulfilling, self-organizing environment is all down to getting the right skills, but then the right mix of personalities and people in the team as well. So getting that right team around you, I think, is probably the most difficult out of the three there.
Yeah. Okay. And what are the dynamics that make up a great team? You mentioned skills, which is obvious, personality, but what in your opinion creates a great team?
So So it's not agreement between everybody, because you want healthy challenge.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you have a team where everybody's agreeing with you, you're probably doing something wrong. You know,
Yeah.
actually, what you want to do is, in everything that you try and do, whether it's delivering a program, whether it's service, whether it's strategy, whatever it is, you want loads of different views coming in. So making sure that you're getting all of those different views and being challenged is probably the most important part of all of that for me, because it's
Mhm.
only through doing that that you really kind of get a really good result. So the ability to have all of those challenging conversations, and then for that set of people to be able to walk out of that room and go for a drink together and be, you know, kind of great friends at the end of it, that's kind of where I want to try to get to, really.
How do you ensure that you get that diverse thinking across your teams? Is that through recruitment? Is that through retention? And then when you get that diverse thinking, how do you give everyone a voice to make sure they're comfortable to share those ideas?
So there's a few parts of that. So if you think about diversity in teams, that's so if you think about kind of, I guess, gender diversity is kind of as the starting point there.
Hmm.
That's actually more difficult than it should be, if I'm brutally honest.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'll use my daughter as an example. So she's 19 years old. She goes to university in Sheffield,
Mhm.
and she's doing computer science. So she wants to get into. Maybe one day you'll be interviewing Stephanie.
I hope I will be. Or if I am, then maybe something's gone wrong, because if I'm still here by that. But I hope I am. I hope I am.
So she's doing computer science at Sheffield, and when I talked to her about the number of women on her course, it's like 10% or maybe
Is it
under.
really?
I mean, that's just dreadful. I mean, that's horrendous. So there's something, just kind of as a nation, if you like, you know, we kind of need to get better and make sure that we've got more women coming into technology. And there's lots of kind of positive movements out there, but I think fundamentally we need to do something more to kind of get more women in. So
Yeah.
targeted recruitment, definitely, in terms of
Yeah.
making sure that we've got women coming into those technology roles is key. You then kind of look at cultural diversity, and for a lot of years now, I've always worked with multinational teams, and actually for a significant number of years also had reasonably sized teams over in India, predominantly, actually,
Yeah.
is where we're focused. And over in India, just on the gender piece, I mean, they do that fantastically. I look at my team over there, and I don't know, in terms of full-time people, I've probably got about 250 over there now. I'm not sure what the exact number is, but there's a significant proportion of those that are women as well, which is fantastic. So you do kind of get that. You do get some of that diversity in thinking of the team. And then obviously you kind of look at different countries as well. So if I look at my current role, I've got a Spanish team, so you get a different view from a Spanish team. So you kind of surround yourself with all of those different views, cultures, genders, and all the rest of it. And then ultimately it's about creating that kind of safe environment for people to have very open and challenging conversations. And, you know, I guess that's kind of part of leadership style, if you like. You know, I've worked for people in the past who have been, you know, kind of extremely scary bosses that actually you'd never want to go really have one of those really kind of open, thoughtful conversations with. You'd have to be very guarded. What I try and do is make sure that in those conversations where I really want people to open up and really want those different views, you kind of set the tone. You know, there's no wrong answers. I need your views, whether I agree with them or disagree with them. I want these views, you know. And I think that's down to leadership style and creating those right environments, whether it's one-to-one, whether it's as part of teams,
Yeah.
to really kind of pull those views out of people. And also for people to see that you're acting on those views as well. So if you go ask for that feedback, to follow up on it and actually
Yeah.
do, you know, and act on that stuff is really important, because people see that they're being heard and listened to as well, which is essential.
Yeah, absolutely. And looking at your roles that you've done, or perhaps your current role, is largely about technology change, isn't it? Or using technology to enable change across the business. And
Yeah.
what's the most difficult part of leading on a big digital transformation across your organization, be that a current example or a past example? What are the key challenges, even when you've got that team, the team dynamics right?
I mean, at the end of the day, there's always going to be problems, and that all of those problems, from my perspective anyway, they typically kind of have a common theme running along them or through them. Big challenges are either I've got big stability problems, so service issues,
Yeah.
or secondly, there's large programs and I've got issues around the delivery of those programs. Those are typically kind of the biggest things that you get hit with. And the approach to kind of working through all of those really kind of sits in the same root cause or root fix, if you like, and that's around, as a leader, you kind of have to stay calm and just acknowledge those problems, right? Okay, there's the next set of things that we need to work through. It's about making sure you've got the right people around those problems. So again, back to, always making sure you're recruiting people who are better than you are and, fantastic skills around. Make sure you've got the right people around you. Make sure you've got the right measures so you understand what it is you're fixing and when it's actually fixed, whether it's a delivery thing or whether it's a service thing. And then the last point, back to my storytelling, kind of making sure that you've got everybody engaged who needs to be engaged in terms of your teams, telling the story, making sure that they understand what's needed and are on the track to fix that, or managing stakeholders around you to make sure that they understand that stuff's in hand. But I guess kind of fundamentally giving people a sense of confidence that actually stuff is under control. Because if you don't give a sense of confidence to those kind of key stakeholders and bosses and all of the rest of it, then I think that's probably where you hit trouble.
And that's definitely one of your skills, right? You always come across as unflappable, if that's a word. Maybe somebody that takes things in their stride and always has a very pragmatic view of things. But I also know you're really passionate about work. So what is it that keeps you up at night in your role? What are the things that worry you as a CTO?
So I'll comment on the first bit actually first, and so appearing unflappable. So
are you like a swan?
So people have said that before, and the thing is, if I panic, right? So if I'm looking really stressed, if I'm looking like I'm flapping, then that kind of breeds the same behaviour. And you know what? We kind of don't need that. So even though inside there's some stuff that I may be really panicking about, actually it's important just in terms of leadership style to make sure that I'm the kind of calm voice in the room, and that's kind of that's the way that you get the best results out of the team. Is typically what I've found over the years. The second part of your question, in terms of what's keeping me up at night at the moment. So we're just coming out of the back end of a 6-year transformation program, an enormous transformation program. So globally, we've spent about, I think it's over $1.5 billion.
Huge.
A big chunk of work.
Yeah.
And we've got the last parts of that are now being completed in Spain and in the UK. Spain's about 4 months away from finishing. It has a number of challenges, as all of these big programs do around it. So if there's anything that's keeping me awake at the moment, it's probably just finishing off that transformation activity, because there's so much work that needs to be done in a short period of time. So it's about just making sure that we've got the teams focused in the right place, focused on the right priorities. And so ultimately we kind of hit those dates and then we can kind of move on. So that's the stuff that's keeping me awake at the moment.
And then once that's done and delivered, your big transformation is over. What's next? What are What are your top 3 priorities as CTO over the next 12 months? Obviously, I can appreciate one might be getting this thing delivered, but you can't have that one because that's a cop out. So
Yeah, come on. So that was going to be. So in fact, it's funny actually, because so we're halfway through 24, so we're starting to think about 25 now in terms of planning and all of the rest of it. And if I think about that, the 3, the first one is actually I have to get transformation finished, so that has to be kind of top of the list. What we've done as a global organization is, in essence, kind of land a standard product suite in all of the regions around the world. So now we've done that kind of basic work, and this is where it gets really exciting for us as an organization now, and for the technology team here at Equifax. It's actually about building on all of those capabilities that we've implemented over the last 12 months. So driving kind of new product and innovation, which is the reason why we've been through transformation. So
Right.
I'm really looking forward to that bit now, where we've gone through this process of almost kind of taking the old world and moving it into a new cloud-based world. Actually, now the fun bit starts, because it's about how we use all of those new capabilities to provide better services and products to our customers over the next however many years. So really looking forward to kind of moving into that growth area. The other thing is, we've been quite internally focused, I think, as a technology team, and probably me as well, over the last few years, because we've had this transformation program to go through. So one of the things that I'm really looking forward to now is spending more time with customers.
Okay.
Because I feel like I've been too far removed from customers, because my job's about making sure I understand what's going on from a tech perspective out in the world, what's going on with our customers and where their priorities are, what's going on in terms of our global strategy as an organization, and pulling all of that stuff together into a technology strategy. Key part of that ultimately being, if we can provide the right products and services to our customers, we'll succeed as an organization. So more time with customers, I think, is definitely a priority for me as well.
And number 3, have you got a third?
Oh, come on. Can't I have finishing off transformation?
No, that's 1. Customers is 2.
All
what
right,
about
well,
AI? Talk to me about AI. What's the plan?
well, yeah. So there's if you talk about kind of where we're going from a technology perspective, there's a few things really. So as all organizations there's a significant focus on AI. So for example, so we're a data business, and we have a target now, so that 80% of everything we do in terms of we kind of provide scores to our customers to a large extent. 80% of all of those scores has to have AI infused into the way those scores are calculated. So from a products and services perspective, it's just integral to the way that we work. So kind of a real focus there in terms of infusing AI into the products and services that we provide. You then flip it round the other way and say, well, okay, what can we do with AI internally from an organization perspective? So things like operational efficiency. So we're a Google shop, so we use G Suite as our product set, and Gemini is the AI that kind of sits alongside that. And you look at the capabilities that has in terms of operational efficiency. If we were recording this meeting in Google, I kind of click a button, it can create a set of minutes with the actions out of the back of it, create a set of slides for me to summarize it if I want it, and all of the rest of it. So AI just makes work so much more efficient as well. And so we've focused on how we can improve our productivity. And then also you put that into your customer service team. So what can you do in terms of automating documents that you get into the organization, or billing, or whatever it may be? It has applicability in so many areas, and if anything, it's about making sure you're picking out your priorities as to where you want to go at, because there are so many uses for it. It would be easy to kind of get drowned with all of it. So it's about picking those kind of use cases that you want to go for, but some internally focused and then some customer focused.
Amazing. And touching on what you've just said there, from an innovation perspective, and not necessarily around AI, but it's very easy to get drowned with new tech innovation and trends, isn't it? And kind of look at everything because there's just so much. How do you decide as a CTO which innovation and, I guess, new tech and kit and tools and all these wonderful things that enable us to be more efficient to invest in, and which to pass on? How do you make those decisions?
So I'm actually very lucky because I work as part of a global organization, and ultimately our strategy is a global strategy from a technology perspective. So I described earlier our transformation approach was around taking a set of kind of standard global products and services and implementing them within regions. So as a European team, we have probably quite a heavy, we're a US business, so we have kind of quite a heavy US shoulder, hand on shoulders. So actually, a lot of those decisions around global strategy, I form part of the group that ultimately kind of helps make some of those decisions, but it doesn't come down to me personally from a European perspective. So the answer to your question is, we kind of take all of those inputs as a global team, and then we figure out through our kind of normal prioritization and planning process, okay, where are the things that we think we're going to get the biggest bang for buck? Where are we going to get the biggest improvement, either internally from an operational perspective or externally in terms of new products and services that we can provide to our customers?
And on a personal level, then, to be able to contribute to those conversations and meetings, and I guess thinking about what's ahead, how do you personally stay current with innovation and trends?
Yeah, so if I was doing my own end of year review, performance review, I would say this is the must try harder bit, Jeremy.
Okay.
So I've become, sharing everything with you now, Sarah.
This isn't just coming to me, Jeremy. This is going to be wrong.
Do I need to think about this?
No.
I'm very lucky because, again, being part of a global organization, we have hundreds of people who are kind of continually scanning and looking at these trends, and some extremely clever people around the world. So actually, I kind of get spoon fed to a certain extent a load of this information in terms of the trends, what's hot, what's not, on a global basis. So one of the things that I'm very conscious of, and I guess kind of, oh, here we go, look, this is my third priority for the next 12 months. I've got it. So my third priority for the next...
We'll edit that for previous questions.
Is about making sure that I guess I'm kind of spending more time with my peer group, in reality, outside of Equifax, really kind of understanding what other organizations are doing as well, and other folks who are in the same position as me. So yeah, must try harder on that one, I think, because I'm in a fortunate position being part of a local global organization.
But it's interesting that you recognize that there's value in having that network and those, I guess, allies and supporters.
Yeah.
Is that just a time thing that you don't do that so much currently, or?
That's exactly what it is. It's right. We talk about work-life blend. The blend has been skewed very significantly towards work over the last kind of 6, probably more years in reality. Unfortunately, I don't think I put enough time aside to do that stuff, but it's one thing that I certainly do need to make sure I spend more time doing, because the value you get from talking to peers who are doing the same role in other organizations is enormous. I know when I go kind of speak to some of our customers and their CTOs and CIOs, I get enormous benefit, kind of just understand how they're tackling some of the challenges. So yeah, it's a really important thing to do, and something I need to get better at.
That investment in you.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, that's a good point, Sarah. Good way
Yeah.
to put it. I think I've neglected it over the years, if I'm honest. And I guess to a certain extent, I mean, that's where, the likes of you, Sarah, can kind of help me. And I know, have done in the past in terms of the sessions that you organise in terms of
Mhm.
CIO forums and stuff, that they're actually fantastic environments where, you can have those conversations in a relaxed environment where there's no real kind of pressure, just to kind of have a bit of time to really understand what other people are doing as well.
People at your level that perhaps have found themselves looking for a new job for the last maybe 24 months, where the market's been much more challenging, have really realized the value in having those really strong networks, not just because they create opportunities, but from a support perspective as well. It's one of those things you don't need your network until you need it, and you realize you haven't got it. So like anything, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I know you've worked in lots of sort of large corporate global environments where there's probably quite a lot of reliance on legacy systems, which is understandable. How do you balance? And I guess more importantly, what are the challenges that you face in your role when you're trying to innovate within an environment that's got that legacy reliance, and balancing the two? How do you do that, and what do you need to overcome?
So this is, I guess, it's kind of it's a very recent challenge that, and to a certain extent, still going through actually. So again, as I talked about over the last 6 years, our focus has been on moving off old legacy environments into new cloud-based, cloud-native products and services and environments. Um, the the problem is, as an organisation, or from a technology perspective, we will always be challenged to continually deliver more revenue things, new products, new innovations on the old legacy environments while you're trying to build the new environments. And the problem is, unless you stop working on the old stuff, you're never going to move to the new stuff.
Yeah,
And that's a really difficult thing to do,
yeah,
because that needs buy-in literally right the way up to the top. So I'm really fortunate, right? I work for a chap called Patricio Ramon, who's our European president. He's a fantastic guy. And we've gone through this journey for the last 6 years where we haven't really invested much in our old systems, our old products and services. And that's actually hit us from a revenue perspective as well, to a certain extent.
yeah.
But if we hadn't have made those really tough decisions, we'd never have been able to have moved to the new, and you kind of end up in that horrible limbo world where you're trying to manage the old world and manage the new world side by side for an extended period of time. The quicker you can get through it, the quicker you can move into that position where you're in an ability to grow again.
Mm.
And as we were going through that, it's funny, I was having this conversation the other day actually, because we kind of stood still to a certain extent for a couple of years because we weren't doing that investment in legacy. But actually, we're kind of starting to really reap the rewards now because we got through it quicker than we would have, which means we can really start to kind of grow fast on the new stuff. So that's a very long way of saying you need to stop investing in your old, take the difficult decision, and build the new as quickly as possible. And if you do that, you get through it quicker and you reap the rewards faster.
And you mentioned getting sponsorship at the top down is really critical to being able to do something like that and achieve something like that in a business.
Yeah.
And how difficult is that?
It's horrendous. Well, no, because and it's back to where I started. We're a people business, right?
Yeah,
Fundamentally, whatever job you're in, we're in a people business. Storytelling, all of that stuff,
yeah,
engagement, it all comes back to the same thing. It's about making sure there's a really clear strategy. That you're really clear on what that strategy looks like. really articulate in terms of what the benefits will be, really articulate in terms of what the impact is going to be in the short term, and ultimately trying to get people bought into that vision. And that's a really hard thing to do because you've got so many people involved in that. You kind of need everybody aligned, and in reality you kind of never get 100% of people aligned, but it's about making sure you've got the mass behind that vision and strategy. So there you go.
Thank you. Reflecting on your career, what's been the most rewarding aspects of your role as a technology leader when you think back?
So I love building big, strong teams that deliver well. So for me, the highlights are always when you see people move on into bigger roles. Literally just before we started talking now, I was saying goodbye to somebody who's gone on to do a really senior delivery role at another organization outside of Equifax into a new role. She's absolutely fantastic, and to see her kind of progress and move into a new role is just amazing. So I find that stuff so rewarding when you see people kind of grow and move on. It's fantastic if you kind of keep them with you, but it's not always possible.
No.
There's not always the right opportunity. So I love seeing people grow. The thing that I really love is the delivery. So when you have those really big problems, those big challenges, those big things that need to be delivered, and seeing those delivered successfully, and the pride that it gives people, and kind of the teams with their chests puffed out, proud of what they've done, for me, I think is just fantastic. I love to see the teams succeed, and my job ultimately is about trying to kind of empower people and create the right environment for people to do that, really.
Yeah, amazing. And thinking about people that are watching this today, hopefully lots of aspiring CTOs, what advice would you give to them in their process of when they're looking to advance their careers?
So number one, you have to deliver, right? You don't get given the opportunities unless you deliver. So number one, you won't get the opportunity unless you kind of do what it says on the tin.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the given. I think the other thing then is, I took you kind of talked about unflappable. That's calm is a good thing, right? Kind of I've worked for people who have had massive ups and massive downs, and you know what, it's not great. If you go into a senior leadership role, I think that kind of level head is actually essential, because it influences the way that the people around you act and behave, whether that's peers or whether that's people who are kind of working for you. So level head. And then the third one, really, and I've talked about it a few times, is that storytelling. So being able to take our jobs are ultimately very technical jobs, and being able to articulate very technical things in a very simple way that people understand, that people can see the benefits to our customers, that you're speaking business language rather than technology language, and to be able to do that in an engaging way, I think is probably one of the important things. If I look at sort of people that I've seen who really impress me as CTOs and really senior leaders, that ability to kind of really engage and get people fired up, that really is a fantastic skill, I think.
Yeah. And it's interesting. I mean, I've probably done about 15 of these interviews now, and no one ever talks about technology. The conversation is always about the people leadership side and being able to bring people along and fire people up and be focused on people delivering and getting the most out of people. So it's almost like technology doesn't even come into it. Obviously, it's a big part of the role, but it's almost like a given that part is what you do.
I consider myself to be a business leader that just happens to be in charge of technology. It's the way I think about it, It could be in charge of a data and analytics team or an operations team. Just so happens it's technology that I'm looking after, and that's probably a decent way to think about it.
Yeah, amazing. I've got one final question for you, Jeremy, and it's not from me. So we always ask our previous guests to leave a question. So I'm going to ask you this. What's been the most controversial decision you've made in your role, and how did it impact the company that you work for?
Oh God, that's a good question, isn't it?
It is.
So I'd probably go to a couple of places. So I think the first one was and I've actually made this decision on a number of occasions now, but taking the opportunity to move a significant amount of our work offshore.
Okay.
So move it into delivery teams predominantly based out of India. And those decisions started actually kind of a long time ago when it wasn't necessarily, or it was kind of an up and coming theme, but wasn't necessarily the thing to do. And there was a lot of kind of, sucking through teeth, is that really the right thing to do? Thankfully, it did turn out to be the right thing to do. And then if I think about other decisions, controversial ones, I made a really bad technology decision in my last organization. So we were talking about mobile devices, and we went down the Windows mobile device route. That was an absolute disaster. That was properly horrendous. That was. Yeah, I think probably the outsourcing and moving work offshore is probably the most controversial, but with the right results at the end of it, actually.
Yeah. And controversial, why? Because of the impact internally on the people that are currently doing the roles, delivering the service.
Yeah, controversial because ultimately it impacts people internally because you're moving workload offshore, but then also because it was a bit of an unknown quantity for a lot of those people. So to give you an example, it was in the manufacturing space that I originally did that, and that's quite an old school way of thinking.
Yeah.
So the idea of kind of moving work offshore was something totally alien to them. So that's why it was controversial, because it's something that they would just never even kind of consider doing. But thankfully it was a success.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. It's been an absolute pleasure.